once again, we're getting ready to go to Moab, so I want to get some work done on the Bronco. One thing I'm going to be redoing is the cage here in the back. I'm going to be cutting this, pretty much this whole back section off and redoing it. Get it a little bit more level and then come back. So I can have a soft top up there and or a bikini top and not have it blocking my rearview mirror. And I'm also going to be changing out my winch cable and putting a synthetic one in there. There's a couple other things I want to get done on it, but we'll see what all we get done before we can head out on our next trip. This rope is nice. It has a little bit of orange section here to warn you to not spool out anymore. Leave a little bit on your winch so it'll still have a good hold. Well, there it is. We got the synthetic winch rope installed and the Badlands Fair lead. This is actually an old school Harbor Freight winch. I don't even know if they called these the Badlands winches when I got it. But it's a 12,000 pound winch and I've had it on this thing for over 10 years and it still works good. Just thought it was time to upgrade the cable and I went with the synthetic. I'm gonna throw some of these welding blankets down so I don't mess up my new seats. So I got the tops cut off at this bar. But back here in the back, I have these kind of like braces that go up to my shock hoops. And then there's also a bar that comes across the back, ties them together. And I want to keep all this stuff, so I'm going to cut them here and at the base and take this whole back section off. Maybe I should just keep the half cab look. Make a little truck bed back here. got all the old welds ground off this cage. These plates. Now I can start on bending the other one. So I've got all my measurements and bends kind of laid out on chalk on the concrete right here, just to give me an idea of how I want it and how far the bends were, and I'll get my bender out and try to make those same bends. But to show you how not to build a roll cage the right way, I'm going to use pipe instead of DOM. The difference is, I don't know if you can see that, pipe has a weld seam in it. It goes all the way through it, and that can create a weak point. So you really don't want to be using pipe. You want to use DOM, but I don't get crazy in my Bronco. I've been wheeling it for over 10 years, and I have actually put it on its side once, and it's held up. Plus, it's going over the back seat, which very rarely has passengers in it, and this thing is light. If anything, I'll probably just put it on its side, but this will never be in a crazy rollover, so the pipe's going to do just fine. With that said, I'll show you how to bend the pipe to make it so you're not creating a weak point or a weaker point. I'll get the pipe bender drug over here and show you how to do it. So before I did any bending or anything with this pipe, I wanted to get some of this surface rust off of it. So I tried out this Eastwood drum sander that my parents got me for Christmas, and it worked great. Got all that off, no problem. Contour SCT. Thanks, Mom and Dad. So I got the Harbor Freight bender out. I have had this thing for years. I've built bumpers, rock sliders, roll bars, mini choppers. It's done its job. But anyway, if you're gonna build you a cage out of pipe and not DOM tube, what you want to do is put this welded seam on the inside of your bend. You don't want it on the side or the outside, because that seam is the weak point. Almost tipped over the bender. But that is the weak point. And if it's going to split, you don't want it out here or up here. It's just going to make it weaker. If you put it down here on the inside of your bend, it's going to be a little bit stronger. So if you're going to build the cage the wrong way, you might as well do it right. But don't do what I say. Do it the right way. Build it out of DOM. So I got all my bends and everything marked out here, and I've got my old school angle finder on here. Tell me how much bend I want to put on it. I cut this bar, this pipe, just a little bit long on each end to make sure I have enough, because each bend will take a little bit out of your total measurement, and then I'll just trim the ends where I need it. But I'll go ahead and get this bent. After every bend, I just like to lay it back down on my marks and mark where my next bend's gonna go and keep going. Another thing you want to do is, when you have it in the bender, make sure every bend, that pipe's straight up and down. Thought I had it good, but it's a little off. That ain't much. I'll be able to tweak that where I need it, but just keep an eye on that too. So when I made this stand many years ago, I made it so I could bolt the bender onto the side of it like this, because once you start getting into bigger bends like this, when it's up on the stand, this end starts to hit the ground. So bolt it on the side like this, and you got plenty of room to keep bending. I can't really use my angle finder to see how much I'm bending it, so I'll just use that old angle finder that I had. But same thing, you just put my digital angle finder on the pipe and on the bender and get it about the same, so all my bends just stays flat. I got the pipe all bent up and it's matching my marks I drew out pretty good. So now I left a little bit long on the ends, so I'll cut those off. But as I'm doing it, I'm gonna notch it so it'll fit around the other pipe really good, and I'll show you how I do that without a tube notcher. So I'm gonna show you how I notch my pipe to get a good fit without a pipe notcher. This was kind of hard to do, you know, without help, you know, having somebody hold it and mark it. It's hard enough to do it by myself and film it, so I didn't get any of it filmed. But basically, I got them clamps up there, and I set my cage up where it's hitting, and I marked where the pipe is touching the cage. Then I bring it over here, and it's touching here and there on the other side, you know, if you could imagine the cage like that. So I mark that, and then I kind of come in the middle of those marks best I can on both sides, make a couple more marks, and then from there I measured up a 1/2 inch. Might need to go a little bit more, but I'm going to start there. Drew a line up on the side that needs to be notched. This is the side that was touching the cage. I did that on both sides, and then I just drew a straight line from that mark down to the other mark that I made that was in the middle. And I'll cut that straight with my grinder and a cutting disc. I'll just make some straight cuts, cut those out, and then I'll probably put a flapper disc on or something to kind of round the edges out to fit. But just doing that itself, you know, I've already got both edges marked, but even in being straight, it's going to give it a pretty dang good fit. I'll go ahead and get those cut, and I'll show you what they look like. There it is, with them straight cuts, and as you can see, it already fits pretty dang snug. I'll go ahead and take my flapper disc and go around that and work it a little bit, and this thing will fit really good. And I'll go ahead and get it up on the cage and get it tacked in place. I got the back hoop tacked on. Coming straight with those bars, right over the back seat. Kind of has a bend in here that can't really see it, but that bend kind of follows the shape of the back seat also. I'm digging it. Now I'll go ahead and get the bars up and in place here. It'll kind of come up, follow the bed, and then right there it'll bend and go up to that corner. So it'll kind of have some in here, and looking at it from the back, it'll have a little bit of in there also. I think it'll look good. Go ahead and get that back bent and put it in place. There it is. Still has that slanted look in the back that I was going for. A little bit more than the front bar, but pretty dang close. Pretty flat. Once I get a bikini top on there, it shouldn't block my view anymore. I like how it turned out. I might add another handle like this back here, which will also help as a gusset, kind of strengthen it up a little bit. But for what this thing gets used for and the trails I go on, this is going to be perfectly fine.